Right, in this video, what I'm going to be talking about is that I've found out whether or not it applies, and whether or not what I found out applies to my Ford Focus 1.5 TDCi Smart 3.5. So that's 2015 my car. And what I found out is what I've been led to believe, and I've done a little bit of research, although when I say I found out, is one of the actual people that have commented in my video, and they've said basically what they're trying to say, but they didn't really say, is how they've said it is when you put the lower control arm, this is the right hand lower control arm on the same car, when you put this onto the car, now how they've described it is keep these bolts that fasten onto the bulkhead of the car, or the undercarriage of the car. What you should do is have them loose. Okay, so loose, and then kind of this is loose as well, and then drop the weight of the car onto this lower control arm, and then tighten the bolts. Okay, and this is how they've come across. Maybe they're from a different country, from England, and English is a second language, I don't know, but that's how they came across. And I said, no way, this is gonna, this is a dangerous thing. You can't do that. You can't tighten bolts that are loose onto your subframe when you drop the weight of the car on, because you're going to shear some of the threads and you're going to cause a lot of damage. You can potentially kill yourself if the bolts kind of fell off and sheared, and the weight of the car dropped on you. So I thought, no. So I had a look on the 4D manual online, manual, and this is where it got me thinking. I kind of worked out what he was on about, but it took a little bit of research to actually say, okay, let me have a little investigation. And this is what this video is about. So on the e-manual, this is the rear of the car, that's the front. Here's obviously the ball joint, and this is the front joint on the car, onto the subframe. It states this: tighten this up, specified torque. So it clamps this in. If you look at it, there's a rubber mount in there. It's really nice, kind of nice tough rubber there, really tough. Clamp these in, put the bolts in at the specified torque. I can't remember what it was. So tighten them up. Put this one in just kind of loose. Put the bolt in, and because not the whole length of it has got threads in it. Some of it's just a shaft. Stick it in and kind of loose hand tighten it. Not even hand tighten it, just tighten it somewhat. This one, put the ball joint in, okay, and then tighten this one also. But leave this one, it says on the e-manual, leave this one with just hand tightened to the end. Alright, now the logic is this. The whole purpose of this guy who made a comment, and I had a kind of long discussion, back and forward discussion, is that this arm should be horizontal during manufacturing, and likewise it should be horizontal when you tighten this very last bolt here. The reason being is, when, say for example, I've got this loose, and I kind of shove the lower ball joint on it, it sits like this at an angle, okay, and the e-manual then states obviously tighten this one up, and then with obviously the jacking point of your car as the weight of the car and axle stands, use some sort of maybe like a jack, lift this up until it's horizontal, and then tighten it. Okay, that's what it states. Right, according to the e-manual, 4D manual online, bolts should be finger tight at this stage. So that's ball joint in there, the rear of the control arm, the front of the control arm, near the front of the car. It says it's okay to start tightening the rear. 115 newton meters plus 90. So this stage I tended to tighten up the ball joint normally already. So according to the manual, leave the front bolt in, but finger tight or a little bit tight. The next thing, according to the manual, lift the arm up. Here it is on stand. Use a jack. I'd use the jack. Lift the arm until it's horizontal, and then the final bolt to tighten is the front bolt of the control arm. So according to this, it doesn't really say why, but it's to give it least amount of twist in the rubber boot, the rubber mounting boot. Alright, so that should be 150 newtons plus 90 according to the e-manual, 4D manual. And that kind of makes sense to me, because if it was riding like this, okay, and you know, you got some, you know, obviously it's going to bounce up and down, up and down. There is the minimum amount of stress on this rubber gating here, because there's a inner ring that's all metal and rubber bushings surrounding it. So what it is if you don't do that, if you do what I did, tighten where you go, put the road wheel on, what happens is, as the car, as the bolts clamp down on this end, this becomes tight, and as the car sits on it, it's going to create like some sort of an initial twist in this rubber bung, in this rubber bushing. All right, and obviously it's okay when you're kind of going up, when the wheels are going down and you're kind of going up, but it's when you really hit a bump, it's going to give that extra kind of unnecessary twist on it. So I've got this old control arm out, and I'm keeping this because I don't know when they're going to make a new ball joint. When they make a new ball joint, that is the ball joint only. I'm going to drill these out and I'm just going to put the ball joint in there, because it's the ball joint that failed. That's why I've kept this old one. I'm not throwing it away. Well, the reason why I've got this old one, and notice there's a strip of paint there in a straight line. I'm just going to do an experiment in the middle. I'm going to clamp this down like so. You see that? Right. And because I still want to save this, I'm just going to tighten it a bit more. I'm just going to twist on it. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. It is clamped down. I'm just wondering if it will. It's taking an awful lot of pressure to make that twist. More so than perhaps when I tighten the bolts to specified torque. Okay. See if it kind of does move independently, somewhat. See that? See a little bit of play in there? I cannot produce the clamp pressure to do this. My guess is, notice, this is a big vice, right? I'm clamping down. My guess is, even with the specified torque tightened up on it, when the car goes to sit on it, it's just basically going to twist. It's going to twist, and I mean the inner part's going to twist with the car as it lifts. I don't think, judging by this, I don't think there is a problem. I think it's going to twist, but I need to find out the torque amount that I need to tighten the bolt up to, and I'll find out that by looking at the e-manual. And the next thing I'm going to tell you what torque is, and I'm going to jack up my car. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, paint a white line in it, and I'm going to release that last bolt. Not touching this, not touching that, not touching any of that. This bolt is exposed. Obviously take the wheel off. With it, I am going to jack this up. I'm going to jack it up at this location, jack it up until it's level, and then release the bolt, and to see then if there is a twist in it. So paint the line first, jack it up, and release the bolt. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here we go. I couldn't really paint the front of the front part of this lower control arm, but I could paint the back. Do you see, if you look very carefully, I can get my torch in there, I've painted, see if I can get in there without causing shadow. Yeah, see where I painted it. Now there's 3 white patches, one to the left, one to the middle, one to the right. Now the one in the middle is basically the metal. The one to the left I couldn't help but paint the frame, use it as reference. The one to the right is obviously the rubber bung. Hopefully that comes up on your screen. So what I'm going to do now is show you. Now, by the way, it's 150 newton meters on that bolt, plus 90 degrees further. See how that arm's dangling down? See that? So I'm going to pump that up until it's horizontal and then tighten, unloosen it, see if it untwists, or see if those paint marks unline at a different angle. I admit that I'm wrong. Tighten it back up at 150 plus 90. Put the road wheel back on. So reason being, you don't want unnecessary wear, and it could be that those bushings wear out a little bit quicker than they should do. Usually your ball joint goes first in a car like this. Since you can't buy ball joints on their own, it should be your ball joint way before those bushings, but you never know. Alright, so let's get this upper arm horizontal now. That's about right. Okay, so I've compressed the spring. Okay, let's have a look. See what it looks like back there. You can see that the rubber bung is higher now than the mark on the left of the frame. Definitely, and the mark in the middle on the metal is sort of midway between. Let's say it's kind of lifted up a little bit, the mark on the metal, and the rubber bung one's definitely lifted up. Alright, so let me, it's a better shot. See that? See how that is now? Moving the light away from it a little bit. Okay. Just in case I didn't really get a good shot, so there was a white paint mark there before I pushed up the suspension. That belonged to the frame of the car. Blob of white paint, that's where the metal was, and the blob of white paint where the rubber was. As I lifted and pushed up the control arm, this kind of went up, the blob of paint on the rubber, and this little white bit, which is where the metal was, went up a little bit as well, but not as high as this one. So this will how it looks now. So if you can't really see it on camera very well, you just have to kind of press and take my word for it. Hopefully it comes out. Alright, okay, let's undo that bolt. That should be on pretty tight, so I don't need to loosen anything else. We'll see what happens. It's an 18 socket. I've got really powerful lights on it, so I'm not sure if you're going to see anything, but I will be able to talk you through. So we're looking right down there. You take the wheel just to get out of the way. I don't think it really helped. And we're now going to go from underneath. This is why I didn't do it in the first place. What a pain. With the jack there, makes it much harder. Just in the way. Right, okay. I did break it initially. Okay. when I tighten this up, I'm not going to do it too tight. 150 newton meters. Tiny bit more, right, so that's loose. So what we're looking at, let me get my camera in there. Okay, I don't know, did it catch it? Did it? I mean, I was underneath, I don't know, I didn't see it. Where that shadow is, just know that. So I've done it. The right hand blob of paint is more lined up with the metal blob of paint now. So there was a slight 2 or 3 degrees. Is it worth doing all this just to make sure that that's not pre-tensioned, the rubber bung? Probably if you're installing new nut arm, yes it is. But if you was like me, I've already done it, probably not worth doing it. Not worth undoing it and then doing it up again. Anyway, this is what the guy meant when he was kind of commenting, and I kept commenting back. It didn't make any sense, but this is what he meant. You don't want to give any pre-tension. I don't think it's going to wear out that much faster. I don't think it is. But I did hear a little click. Maybe it bounced back when I heard it kind of give it a little click. Anyway, I know I didn't really make too much sense in parts of this video because I'm really tired. Hard day's work. But anyway, please think about subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. Hit that like button, leave a comment below. Tell me if you think it's worth doing or not. Definitely when you're installing a new arm, but probably, my opinion, not when I've done it already, to undo it and then do it back up again. So I'm only have to, see that bolt there? Yeah, it's a risk. Every time you take a bolt off, it's a risk. May not, you know, it may not last. It might round it off, could be anything. It might snap, who knows. Anyway, let's give 150 newtons and I'll play it by ear.